both sides make changes ahead of their final game of the Six Nations in Rome. My name's Mark, let's talk rugby. This one is Italy versus Ireland. It's on Saturday, 15th of March 2025. It's at the Stadio Olimpico in Rome. It's 2:15 kickoff. So last year it was Ireland 36, Italy 0, and then in 2023, Italy 20, Ireland 34. The odds are Italy 12-1, Ireland 12-1 on, and a draw is 55-1. So, in terms of how things are going to go with this one, we're going to have a quick look at the teams. We'll talk about what changes are in the teams, how those might affect the game, and then we'll talk more in a broader sense about the game and make a prediction as well. So let's start with the home team. So let me pull up the Italy team now in a second. Right. Here we are. Okay, so the Italian team, front row is Fischetti, Lucchesi and Ferrari. Second row is Lam and Ruzza. And the back row is Negri, Zuliani and Lorenzo Canone. Halfbacks, Pedrello and Ioani. Left wing is Gallagher. The centres, Menincello and Brex. Right wing, Capuozzo. And fullback is Allen. On the bench then, we got Nicotera, Spagnolo, Zalocci, Canone, Lamaro, Vincent, Barney, and Marine. Okay, and then let's have a look at the Ireland team. So, front row, Porter, Sheehan, Beelum. Second row is Ryan and Byrne. Back row, Conan, Van der Fleer, and Doris. Halfbacks, Gibson Park and Crowley. Left wing, Lowe. Centres, Henshaw and Ringrose. Right wing is Hansen. Fullback is Keenan. And on the bench then you got Gus McCarthy, Boyle, Furlong, Joe McCarthy, Omani, Murray, Prendergast and Aki. Okay, so let's talk about what changes Italy have made to their team. Both teams, as I said in the intro, made a lot of changes actually to their teams and kind of reflects, maybe not too happy overall with the performances last time out. And you can see why that would be. So starting with Italy, you got Lucchesi and Ferrari up from the bench into the front row, and Nicotera is dropping down to the bench with Riccioni out of the 23. Then Dino Lam gets the nod ahead of Nicolo Canone in the second row, and Canone drops down to the bench, and that means then there's no spot for Fabretto in the 23. Zuliani and Lorenzo Canone start ahead of Captain Lamaro and Ross Vincent, and they both drop down to the bench. It means that Juan Ignacio Brex is the captain for Italy in this game. Then it's all change of halfback as well. Pedrello and in at 9 and Montigiani at 10 with Varney to the bench and Garbisi out at 23. Then Capuozzo moves to right wing. Tommaso Allen comes in at full back, and it means that Zalocci and Marine come onto the bench, and they got a 6-2 split. So lots of changes there, changing their front row. That front row though has been kind of interchangeable. The starting and the bench guys through the tournament. They haven't really had, other than Fischetti, not really too settled in the front row. Then the second row as well, Lam and Canone seem to be swapping in and out of that second row with Ruzza, kind of the anchor in there. Then the back row, Zuliani and Zuliani's come in out of the team as well, as has Lorenzo Canone. Lamaro, being the captain, you would have expected to be a fixture, but he's on the bench. And then Ross Vincent, I thought he did pretty well last time, but he's on the bench too. So I think Lamaro will definitely have a point to prove, and Ross Vincent has always been good off the bench, so they may have decent impact from the bench because of that. Then halfbacks, they've been changing 9 through the tournament anyway. They've had Pedrello in there. Then the Alessandro Garbisi was there. Varney was there last time out as well. But then Paolo Garbisi has been kind of the constant in the halfbacks at 10 all the way through. So now you got Ioane in there. And then imagine that, they have Tommaso Allen in at 15 because he's probably going to be taking the place kicks. Then you have Varney on the bench, but no place for Garbisi in the 23. I'm not sure if he's injured or not. I didn't get to see the whole of that game live, so I'm not sure whether he went off injured or not. And then, Capuozzo on the wing. I think it's been more effective from full back, and I think we saw it last time as well. Like he gets more space, and he can be more direct in his running as well. I think out on the wing, the fact that he has the touchline beside him there kind of limits what he can do. Whereas when he gets to catch kicks, return them up the middle, he's got options to step left or right, and defenses find it much harder to actually stop him making breaks there. So you'll have to see how that goes for them. And then Zalocki has been kind of in and out of 23 over the tournament as well. And then Marine coming onto the bench there as well, and said to have a 6-2 split. So they're trying to make sure they have enough forward power, I think, to stay in the second half, because they've kind of Italy this year kind of almost a throwback to previous years, right? Competitive for a certain amount of the game and then fall away at the end. They're trying to get rid of that tag, and maybe a 6-2 split is going to help them with that. But they've been going 6-2 for most of the tournaments, I think. Anyway, on to Ireland then. So big change really in the second row is James Ryan in there instead of Joe McCarthy, and I think that's something that's been coming. Joe McCarthy this year hasn't had as good a season as he had last year for Ireland, and James Ryan has really been doing. He does a lot of like unseen work. James Ryan, he comes on. He really makes sure that the ball is secure to break down, a lot of clear outs and stuff like that, and very good option in the line out as well. And Joe McCarthy, he's a brilliant young player, really good in the carry, but this year he hasn't been. He's been like people. When they tackle him, he's dropping balls and he's not getting as much go forward as he was before. So I think it makes sense, and I talked about it as well. That earlier in the tournament, that I felt like he needed a bit of a wake up call. I think a bit of time on the bench to kind of G him up a bit, and it's something that they don't do enough, I think, with this Ireland squad is when players perform badly, more often than not they actually get the chance to go again. Rather than somebody else getting a go and then that player having to up their performance to get back into the team. So hopefully this is going to be good for him and good for James Ryan as well. Then Ireland really, like, in terms of the changes they made, like, you could say they've gotten jacked because they brought in 3 jacks altogether. So Jack Conan gets a start up from the bench at 6 ahead of Peter O'Mahony, who drops down to the bench. And I think that's probably the right way around. I do like Conan on the bench, but, I think with him at 6 and against Italy, who like to kind of move the ball and give you more space as well when you're running the ball back, I think that might actually work well for us. I think Peter O'Mahony, on his last appearance coming off the bench, can add something there as well. Then Jack Crowley finally gets a start this Six Nations at 10. Prendergast down to the bench. I just wish that I wasn't, because the way it now is kind of framed as Prendergast has been dropped, which you can kind of say he has, right? Because he's gone down to the bench. But I envisage this Six Nations of these two kind of sharing the duties at 10 and coming in and out of the team, and it didn't really happen. So now the change has been made in the final game. It really does feel like Prendergast has been dropped. So we'll see how he deals with that. We'll see how Crowley kind of responds to being given that responsibility now, to be the starting 10 again. I think he should have got more minutes this Six Nations anyway. So it's good that he has finally gotten a start there. Then James Lowe and Mac Hansen return on the wing. Obviously, James Lowe was picked to play against France, got injured in the warm-up, and then Calvin Nash came in instead of him. And then Mac Hansen been in a team with injury through the tournament. And, so to have the two kind of first-choice wingers back is good. But, the fact that we kind of struggled when they were out, again, speaks to this depth that we supposedly have. It's not quite there to the level that people think. And it means also Osborne and Nash drop out of the 23. But you would expect both of them to be heavily involved in whatever summer tour Ireland go on. Then Ringrose back at 13. Henshaw moves to 12. And Aki is down to the bench. So Ringrose back in. I talked about it in the preview. I talked about it, at the time as well when we found out about what happened at the disciplinary meeting. I'm not happy about him being in the 23. He's a fantastic player. I love watching him. I'm a Leinster fan, so I love watching for Leinster. I love watching from Ireland. It's not his fault, right? But what Ireland did to get him to be available for this game, for me, just isn't on. And we'll just leave it there because I've spoken enough about it in other videos, but I'm not happy about it. But he's in at 13. Doesn't mean I won't cheer if he scores a try, obviously. Henshaw at 12, as said, and Aki on the bench. So Aki on the bench, decent impact again there. Then we have Gus McCarthy and Jack Boyle both coming onto the bench. So Ireland, I feel like with far more impact on that bench compared to what they had against France. As I talked about it, previous even to the France game, was that Ireland bench was a bench that was supposed to, kind of manage a lead to full time. It was not a bench to respond to what France did. And I'm not sure if Ireland have a bench to respond to what France did, but it definitely wasn't a bench to kind of chase a game. This bench here, still not quite there in terms of being able to chase a game, but certainly with more impact and should lift the performance when they come on as well. And that's really what you want from your bench. Ireland with a 5-3 split in this one. Okay, so let's talk about kind of the overall things now. So, I think Italy will definitely feel like, there's a chance for them to catch Ireland in this one. Ireland very much exposed against France. Italy, not on the level of France, obviously, but there are certainly things that they would have seen in that game and think, well, we can do that to a certain extent, and that might help them get a little bit more parity in certain areas. And if their set piece goes well, if they get a good start, there's no reason why they can't cause an upset here and beat Ireland in this one. Also for them, the big concern I think for them is avoiding the wooden spoon. Up to basically the France game. So after the first two rounds, so second round they'd just beaten Wales. Everybody's thinking they're having a good tournament, and basically the issue of the wooden spoon was already decided because they'd beaten Wales. Now, Wales don't even necessarily have to beat England to avoid the wooden spoon. They just have to get more match points than Italy. Basically at the moment they're 1 point behind Italy. So if they got a losing bonus point and Italy didn't, Italy's depending on the scores, but if Wales are getting a losing bonus point, they're only losing by 7, which means that Italy are going to have a worse points difference than them, and Italy would end up with the wooden spoon. So that's something that they won't want to do because again, they've had some really good performances. You look at the Scotland game where they came back from 19-0 down to be drawing, but then, again, we had that thing of them falling away right at the end of the game. And then that performance against Wales as well with the win. Then, for a lot of the first half against France, fairly competitive. Second half, then it was like it was the World Cup all over again, right? Just completely gave up, and that's not on. And then against England, kind of something kind of similar, like very close to half time. and then second half, then England blow them away. So, they're going to want to definitely up the performance in the second half for this. And then also, they want to finish the campaign on a high, and they want to put the whole thing with France and stuff behind them as well, and build through the rest of the year as well, on their summer tour and into the autumn as well, and then come back next year in the Six Nations and hopefully be a little bit more competitive than they were this year again. In terms of Ireland, then another team looking to put a poor performance against France, on the to the back of their mind. I said in the preview, for the round that Ireland would probably pick a stronger side, than maybe we would otherwise have expected in this game. We may have expected a bit more rotation in terms of wider squad players, maybe getting starts and stuff in this game. And I think I've been proved right. Look at it. Look at the team they picked. It's basically like, it's starting 15. When you look at the players who are injured, etc., it's as strong as they could pick for this game, and that's what Ireland do. When adversity comes, they kind of double down on the first string players. It seems like there's not much kind of trust, I would say, in the wider squad in terms of people being able to come in games where they really want the performance and delivering. It seems like entries into kind of the 23 or like the starting 15 are very much managed. It's not a case of someone's just going to get an opportunity and play the house down, and now they're starting in that position. It's very much kind of, okay, this guy's the starter, and eventually we want this other guy to come in, but it's going to take maybe 3 kind of Six Nations, a summer tour, and then November, and then maybe we can make a switch kind of gradually over time. So I think that's definitely a negative for the Ireland squad in terms of just being able to draw on the rest of the squad. Because again, we talk about how much depth we have in Ireland, how much we've built, but then you look at when the chips are down. We're in the World Cup, we're playing the same team all through the pool stages. Then we get to the quarter final and we've had injuries, and other guys have to come in who've hardly played through the tournament, and then surprise, we get knocked out, right? So hopefully, eventually, we're going to learn a lesson from that. But yeah, very strong side to pick. In terms of the championship, yeah, they know they're going to pretty much definitely need a bonus point win out of this, right? There are very few scenarios where they could just have a win with no bonus point and actually end up with the trophy. You'd basically mean that England and France would have to lose. Whereas if Ireland win with a bonus point and win well, and England don't get a bonus point against Wales, and France lose, whatever way, if Ireland are going to win the tournament, France basically have to lose, or at least not win. Like if France get a draw, Ireland could still win it. But there's no way that Ireland can lose and win. So almost certainly going to have a bonus point win. And there's just that one kind of scenario really. Ireland win without a bonus point, and then it would mean that England and France would have to lose for them to be the champions, because they're a point behind England, 2 points behind France, and then letting England in for that bonus point at the end and not getting bonus points against Wales really is why they're in this situation. And then I talked about in the preview as well, would Crowley get a start of the campaign, and it proved that it would be. And just again coming back to the title, they really are, of the 3 teams going in with in inverted commas, realistic chances of winning the title. They really are the outsider of it, because they have to deliver themselves, and then watch and hope that other teams, Wales and Scotland, do them a favour as well. For me, I'm not sure if Ireland honestly deserve to be champions. Obviously, if they've beaten France, it'd be a totally different story in terms of that. But I think in terms of the way Ireland have gone through the tournament, I think Ireland have gotten worse over the tournament. There have been some signs of, going back to November even, signs of problems in Ireland's play that they kind of worked through a little bit, and then they would crop up again, and really they all then got exposed against France. So at the moment, I would say Ireland don't deserve to be the champions. Now that could change, because they could perform brilliantly against Italy, and then if they're winning the title, it means that probably France and England have played poorly in their games, or certainly been unlucky in their games. But I think, Ireland will be lucky to be champions this year, and I don't think it's going to happen. But I do think they are going to get their bonus point win in this one. Okay, so that's the end of this one. Let me know what you think down in the comments.